The betrayal happened in plain sight, inside the very institution where loyalty was once the lifeblood of the Labour Party. Keir Starmer is no longer dealing with a quiet rebellion. He's facing open mutiny. Just 1 minute ago, whispers turned into shouts as Labour MPs, especially those from Brexit-voting constituencies, broke ranks to confront their leader over what they call a surrender to the European Union. The EU deal, once hailed as a diplomatic win, has now become a political landmine exploding beneath Starmer's feet. At the heart of the uproar is the controversial fishing clause, giving the EU access to British waters until 2038, deeply cutting into the promises made to millions who voted for Brexit. But it's more than just fishing. The deal's youth mobility scheme is sparking fury, allowing thousands of EU nationals to live and work in Britain unchecked, reigniting fears of lost sovereignty. To many Labour MPs, this isn't a compromise, it's a betrayal of everything Brexit stood for. Inside Parliament, the atmosphere is electric, charged with anger and disbelief. Loyalists have turned to sceptics, and the no-confidence vote is no longer just whispered, it's imminent. Starmer's inner circle is fracturing, with many MPs openly calling him out as a sellout to Brussels. Some have even suggested the deal is a death sentence for Labour's chances in the next election. Behind closed doors, Starmer is said to be furious, branding dissenters as traitors and threatening severe consequences. But his threats only fuel the fire. The rebels aren't backing down. The tide of revolt is swelling, threatening to drown his leadership entirely. Names once loyal to Starmer are now whispered as potential successors. Figures like Lisa Nandy and Wes Streeting are emerging as beacons for those desperate for change. Public outrage mirrors the chaos in Westminster, coastal towns from Grimsby to Plymouth are boiling with anger, demanding justice and accountability. Social media is ablaze with calls for touch a Starmer out, while Labour councillors resign in protest. The party's foundations are crumbling, and Starmer's grip on power is slipping by the minute. As Conservative MPs watch from the sidelines, some gleefully anticipating Labour's downfall, others warn that Britain is entering a leadership crisis that threatens national stability. Starmer's refusal to acknowledge the depth of this rebellion only isolates him further. His insistence that the EU deal is the right choice rings hollow against a backdrop of betrayal, anger and broken trust. The countdown is on. With the no-confidence vote looming, Starmer faces a political battle for survival like no other. Every second counts, and right now, Keir Starmer is running out of allies, patience and time. The question is no longer if he falls, but when. The story is unfolding fast. Stay tuned as the political earthquake beneath Downing Street threatens to reshape the future of British politics forever. The storm engulfing Keir Starmer's leadership is not just a fleeting crisis. It is a fundamental fracture that could redefine the Labour Party and British politics for years to come. The no-confidence vote looms large, fuelled by an unprecedented coalition of Labour MPs, disillusioned voters, and furious industry leaders who feel betrayed by the Prime Minister's controversial EU deal. This deal, once marketed as a diplomatic triumph, is now widely viewed as a catastrophic misstep, one that risks handing Britain's sovereignty and future over to Brussels in ways many never imagined possible. At the centre of this political maelstrom is the fishing clause, a seemingly innocuous line in the agreement that has ignited a firestorm of outrage. Granting the European Union access to British waters until 2038 is seen by critics as a betrayal of the very promises made to those who voted for Brexit. Fishermen from towns like Grimsby, Hull and Plymouth are not merely upset, they feel abandoned and sold out. This anger is not confined to the docks, it resonates in Parliament and across the country. Veteran fishermen, once supporters of Labour's working-class values, have become vocal critics, denouncing the government's perceived surrender to EU demands. The Scottish Fishermen's Federation has labelled the deal a broad daylight nightmare, and industry experts warn that the fishing community's livelihoods could be decimated for decades. But the deal's implications extend far beyond fishing rights. The youth mobility scheme embedded within the agreement has sparked its own wave of fury. Thousands of young EU nationals will be allowed to live and work in Britain without quotas, rigorous border checks, or meaningful oversight. For many Brexit supporters, this is tantamount to reopening the doors to free movement, precisely what they voted against in 2016. The scheme is perceived as a direct affront to the democratic mandate of the Brexit referendum, fueling accusations that Starmer's government is quietly reversing the will of the people. The anger is not abstract. It is deeply personal for millions who feel their voices have been ignored or silenced. Within the Labour Party, the backlash is fracturing what was once a united front. MPs from Leave-leaning constituencies, often referred to as the Red Wall, are openly expressing doubt about Starmer's leadership. These MPs, who once held seats considered safe, now face existential threats from their own voters. The EU deal is being described internally as a death sentence, and concerns are mounting that Labour's traditional base is being alienated at a time when unity and clarity are desperately needed. Anonymous insiders reveal a party in chaos, with MPs exchanging harsh accusations of betrayal and dictatorship. The atmosphere is charged with resentment and fear, a stark contrast to the disciplined and controlled image Starmer once projected. Starmer's reaction to this internal rebellion has only deepened the crisis. Reports from leaked Labour meetings indicate a leader who is lashing out at his detractors, labelling them as traitors and threatening deselection. Such tactics have only intensified the division within the party, alienating members who might otherwise have been swayed to remain loyal. The use of intimidation and the demand for absolute loyalty have backfired spectacularly, revealing cracks in Starmer's leadership style that critics say have been present since his rise to power. The once disciplined Labour Party is now a battleground of competing factions, each jockeying for control and influence as the future of the party hangs in the balance. The rebellion is not confined to backbench MPs. Shadow ministers and senior figures within the party are quietly voicing their concerns, with some even contemplating high-profile resignations to force a leadership challenge. The mounting pressure has given rise to whispers of alternative leaders. Names like Lisa Nandy, West Streeting, and even Angela Rayner are being circulated as potential saviours in a time of crisis. These figures represent a desire among some party members for a return to clear principles and decisive leadership, qualities they argue Starmer lacks. The internal schism threatens not only to topple Starmer, but to fundamentally reshape Labour's direction and identity in the post-Brexit era. Beyond the halls of Westminster, the political earthquake is shaking the very foundations of Labour's support. Long-time loyalists, working-class voters whose families have supported Labour for generations, are abandoning the party in droves. The sense of betrayal is palpable and widespread, with former supporters attending protests, resigning from local branches, and publicly denouncing Starmer's leadership. Social media campaigns like Sasha Starmer Out and Sasha Labour Betrayer are trending, reflecting a grassroots movement fueled by frustration and disillusionment. The party's image as a champion of working-class Britain is crumbling, replaced by perceptions of a leadership out of touch with its base and beholden to the business elite and European interests. Meanwhile, Conservative MPs and Rishi Sunak's allies watch with a mix of glee and caution. Some celebrate Labour's apparent implosion as a political gift, a self-inflicted wound that could hand them electoral advantage. Yet others in the Conservative Party recognise the broader implications of the crisis. A leaderless opposition and a divided country create instability that could disrupt governance and policy-making at a crucial time. The national stakes are high, and the fallout from Starmer's predicament extends far beyond party politics. Britain finds itself adrift, lacking clear leadership as political turmoil threatens to paralyse Westminster and inflame divisions across the nation. Despite the escalating chaos, Starmer continues to insist that the EU deal is the right choice for Britain. In recent press appearances, he has dismissed the backlash as manufactured by right-wing media, refusing to engage with the substance of the criticisms. This stance has done little to stem the tide of dissent, instead painting a picture of a leader increasingly isolated and out of touch with both his party and the public. His inability, or unwillingness, to address the root causes of the rebellion only deepens the perception of weakness and disconnect that now defines his Leadership. As the countdown to the no-confidence vote ticks ever closer, the tension is palpable. Starmer's fate hangs by a thread, dependent on a fragile and shrinking coalition of supporters. The Labour Party is at a crossroads, caught between the demands of a restless base, the ambitions of rival factions, and the harsh realities of political survival. The coming days and weeks will be critical. The decisions made now could determine not only the future of Keir Starmer, but the direction of British politics itself. In this crucible of crisis, one thing is clear: the era of easy politics is over. Starmer's attempt to navigate a complex, post-Brexit landscape by trying to please all sides has failed spectacularly. The resulting backlash has exposed fault lines that run deep, both within Labour and across the nation. The next chapter in this unfolding drama promises to be as unpredictable as it is consequential, with the stakes higher than ever before. The repercussions of Keir Starmer's embattled leadership and the fallout from the EU deal extend far beyond immediate political calculations. They strike at the heart of Britain's ongoing struggle to define its post-Brexit identity. For years, the country has been grappling with the consequences of leaving the European Union, navigating economic uncertainties, border challenges, and the question of sovereignty that inspired the 2016 referendum. Starmer's EU deal, intended to provide stability and a clear path forward, has instead inflamed the very divisions it sought to heal. The unresolved tensions around national identity, economic policy and immigration are now reaching a boiling point, thrusting the entire political system into uncharted territory. One of the most striking aspects of the crisis is the widening disconnect between the political elite and the general public. Starmer's insistence on pushing through the EU deal, despite overwhelming opposition from grassroots supporters, exemplifies this gap. The backlash is not simply about policy, it is about trust and representation. Voters feel ignored, marginalised, and in many cases outright betrayed. Labour's historic role as the party of working-class Britain is being called into question, as many supporters perceive the leadership as increasingly detached and elitist. This perception has been amplified by media coverage that highlights internal party strife, leaks from anonymous insiders, and fiery rhetoric from MPs on both sides of the divide. The crisis of legitimacy facing Starmer is emblematic of a broader crisis of confidence in British politics as a whole. Economic concerns compound the political turmoil. The fishing industry's furious reaction to the EU deal is emblematic of a wider economic anxiety affecting numerous sectors. Fishing communities that once thrived under British sovereignty now face an uncertain future, with livelihoods potentially lost to years of EU regulatory oversight and quota sharing. But it is not only fishermen who worry. Farmers, manufacturers, and service industries across the UK are also watching closely, concerned that the deal may impose hidden costs or restrictions that undermine British competitiveness. These economic fears are being stoked by warnings from experts and unions who argue that the government has failed to secure adequate protections for workers and businesses. The resulting uncertainty has left many wondering whether Britain's post-Brexit economic promise will ever materialise. The immigration provisions within the EU deal have also become a lightning rod for controversy, tapping into a complex and deeply emotional issue for many Britons. The Youth Mobility Scheme, which allows tens of thousands of young EU nationals to live and work in the UK without strict limits, is seen by critics as a covert reopening of the border to free movement. This perception clashes directly with the immigration controls that were a core promise of the Brexit campaign. For those who voted Leave to regain control over Britain's borders, the deal feels like a betrayal of the democratic mandate. The B scheme has become a powerful symbol of the government's perceived disregard for public opinion, fueling protests, petitions, and heated debates in local communities. Immigration policy has always been a contentious topic in British politics, but the current controversy surrounding the EU deal has intensified these tensions to new heights. At the heart of the political storm is the Labour Party itself, struggling to redefine its identity in a country that has changed dramatically since the Brexit referendum. Starmer's leadership has sought to reposition Labour as a pragmatic, centrist force capable of appealing to a broad electorate. However, This strategy has alienated many traditional supporters who feel that the party has abandoned its core principles. The internal conflict has revealed deep ideological divisions within Labour between those who prioritise maintaining a moderate image and those who demand a return to the party's roots as a champion of working-class interests and social justice. These divisions have played out publicly in the form of heated parliamentary debates, leaked memos and resignations, highlighting the fragile coalition that Starmer must hold together to survive. The crisis has also galvanised opposition parties, each seeking to exploit Labour's vulnerabilities for their own political gain. The Conservatives have stepped up their attacks on Starmer's leadership, portraying the Labour leader as weak, indecisive and out of touch. Rishi Sunak's government has framed the EU deal rebellion as evidence of Labour's instability and lack of coherent vision, using it to bolster their own standing ahead of upcoming elections. Meanwhile, smaller parties such as Reform UK have capitalised on the chaos to advance their own agendas, positioning themselves as alternatives to the traditional political establishment. This fragmentation of the political landscape has created an unpredictable environment where voter loyalties are fluid and electoral outcomes increasingly uncertain. Social media has played a pivotal role in shaping public perception and amplifying the crisis. Platforms like Twitter, Facebook and TikTok have become battlegrounds for political discourse, with hashtags and viral videos spreading rapidly. Campaigns critical of Starmer and Labour have gained significant traction, fueled by grassroots activists and disaffected voters. At the same time, efforts by Labour supporters to defend the leadership often fall short amid the overwhelming tide of negative sentiment. The immediacy and reach of social media have intensified the pressure on Starmer, making it harder for the party to control its messaging or present a unified front. This digital dimension has transformed the political crisis into a daily spectacle, with new developments dissected and debated in real time by millions. The international context adds another layer of complexity to the situation. Britain's relationships with the EU, the United States, and other global partners are delicately balanced on the outcome of the Brexit transition. The EU deal was intended to safeguard trade and cooperation, yet the controversy surrounding it risks undermining diplomatic goodwill and economic stability. Allies watch closely as Britain struggles to assert its post-Brexit independence while managing internal political turmoil. The uncertainty has raised concerns among investors and foreign governments alike, who question whether the UK can offer the stability and predictability needed to attract business and foster international partnerships. This global dimension underscores the high stakes of the current crisis and the potential long-term consequences for Britain's role on the world stage. Despite the mounting challenges, some within Labour remain hopeful that the party can weather the storm. Efforts to build consensus, address grievances, and present a clearer vision for the future are underway behind closed doors. Starmer and his team have initiated talks with key factions, aiming to quell dissent and rebuild trust. However, the path forward is fraught with difficulty. Healing the rifts within Labour requires addressing fundamental disagreements over policy and leadership style, tasks complicated by the deep emotional investment of those involved. Moreover, the broader political environment remains volatile, with external pressures and media scrutiny adding to the strain. Whether Labour can emerge from this crisis stronger or will be irreparably damaged remains an open question. In sum, the crisis engulfing Keir Starmer and the Labour Party is emblematic of the broader challenges facing Britain in the post-Brexit era. It highlights deep divisions over identity, sovereignty, economic policy and immigration that continue to shape the country's political landscape. The EU deal, once hailed as a solution, has instead become a catalyst for conflict and uncertainty. As Labour struggles to reconcile its internal factions and reconnect with its base, the consequences will ripple through the political system and beyond. The coming months will be critical in determining not only the future of Starmer's leadership, but also the direction of British politics as a whole, as the nation seeks to find stability amid profound change. Don't miss a moment of this political earthquake. If you found this video eye-opening, smash that like button to spread the truth. Subscribe for more breaking political drama and turn on the notification bell so you're the first to know when. Chaos erupts again in Westminster. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Is Keir Starmer finished? Should there be a general election now? Let your voice be heard. Share this video with friends and family who need to know what the mainstream media won't tell you. This isn't just politics, this is the future of Britain. Stay informed, stay alert, stay with us.